Hi, I'm Don McCubbrey and I'm co-project leader of the Global Text Project. I say co-project leader because my colleague, Rick Watson, is the other part of the co. I'm a professor in the Daniels College of Business at the University of Denver, USA, and Rick is a chaired professor in information systems at the Terry College of Business at the University of Georgia. In a nutshell, what Global Text is doing is trying to deal with the high cost of textbooks. And as many of you who are watching this video know, textbooks are very expensive in the United States. For example, a student in my Introduction to Information Systems course, if I were using a traditional textbook, would pay $150 for a hardcover published textbook. And when he or she went to sell it back to the bookstore at the end of the course, as many students do, what they'd find is that they might get $30, $25 back for their $150 investment. But the problem that Rick and I are trying to solve, and the others who are involved with us in the Global Text Project, are that if you go to developing economies, the cost of textbooks is so far out of sight in relation to the income in a country in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, that even though there's an international edition of most U.S. published textbooks, that $150 textbook in Uganda, if it costs $75, would be a huge percentage of the gross per capita annual income in those countries. So we're targeting developing economies because we think the problem is much more acute there. We started out by having the idea that what we would do is engage the collective intelligence of the academic community to create textbooks from scratch. We got some seed funding from the Jacobs Foundation based in Zurich, and that was to develop two proof-of-concept texts, one in information systems and one in business fundamentals. Rick is the editor-in-chief of the information systems text, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the companion text, business fundamentals. What each of us did was to put together a table of contents for the book and then tap our personal networks to engage volunteers from various universities, actually all around the world, to be chapter editors. And one thing that does distinguish our books is that the model we're taking is a traditional academic model where every chapter has an editor, but every chapter also has a reviewer. So, and then that rolls up and the editor-in-chief, of course, reviews the entire book. The information systems book is published. It's been published for maybe 6-8 months as of March 2009. It was pilot tested in Addis Ababa and Jakarta. The Chronicle of Higher Education wrote a nice article about the use of the information systems book in both places and featured the professor who was using the book to teach 200 students in his class in Jakarta. Since then, what we've learned is that academics take too long to deliver. Well, let me put it this way, they take varying amounts of time to deliver. In my case, for example, with business fundamentals, I had a colleague at the University of Denver who wrote a chapter on an overview of marketing over spring break last year. I have another situation where a colleague who was a one-off connection, but a well-known author, published several books. It's been well over a year since he volunteered to write the chapter, and he has still not delivered. So what we've seen, part of the problem is that faculty are busy. The other part of the problem is that writing a chapter for an open content textbook doesn't count for promotion and tenure. And hopefully that issue will change, but that's the subject for another video. So what Rick and I have found is that we're getting books from 2 other sources and able to put them in the Global Text Library much more expeditiously. We're getting good books that are out of print for one reason or another, where authors obtain the copyright from the publisher, and that's a typical clause in most publishing contracts. And then they give us the right to publish the book under a Creative Commons license. In my case, this colleague that I mentioned in the marketing department, he has written, I think, 20 books, and he had a core concepts of marketing book that was fairly current. We lined up an MBA student to work with him, and we sent the book down to the University of Georgia. They scanned it, and it's now available in the Global Text Library. In some cases, we've had very good experience with getting student volunteers to help write a chapter, or actually an entire book, under the supervision of a faculty member. Students love this project, and students love this project because they know how expensive textbooks are, more so than anyone else in the community. And so anything that they can do to help write books and promote their availability is something that they're happy to volunteer to do. As a matter of fact, another thing that I think distinguishes this project is that Rick and I want to make this a student-operated enterprise. And it would be much like students volunteer to put out a campus newspaper. What we are saying is, here's an opportunity to get some experience in running what is effectively a book publishing company. Everything from acquisition of new titles, finding good books that are out of print that we could add to the library, to the production side, to distribution, marketing, and then, importantly, one thing that I failed to mention and should have mentioned at the outset is that these books are designed to be, number one, localized so that they're tailored to the needs of the target countries. Most textbooks are U.S.-centric, and so as a consequence, most of the examples they have are U.S. related, and they're not as meaningful if you're in another country. The other thing is that wiki-like, although we're not using wikis, we want the books to be continually updated by professors and students who use them. And again, suggestions for updating, changing the way things are expressed, new examples and whatnot would be incorporated into the text under the control of the editor-in-chief of the text. Initially, we're planning to translate these books into 4 languages. Well, they're written in English for the most part. They'll be translated into Arabic, Chinese, and Spanish. Translation is a problem for us at the moment, but we're working on it and have some ideas for how to deal with it. We have a core team, and I should really mention them in addition to Rick and myself. Franz Lehner from the University of Passau in Germany is the CTO. Wayne Wang is looking over the Chinese library, and he's a native of the PRC, former PhD student of Rick's, and he's at Ohio University. Andres Sepulveda is watching over the Spanish library. He's at the University of Concepcion in Chile. And then we just recently were fortunate enough to have Kevin D'Souza, who's at the University of Washington School of Information, join to manage the emerging community of global text users. We're easy to find. It's http, etc., globaltext.org. So we invite you to take a look and get involved.